You cannot support Hamas and oppose jihad at the same time. You cannot. I repeat, you cannot support Hamas and at the same time pretend to oppose jihad and its consequences. To the woke, the pseudo-liberals, the left liberals with selective outrage, this is not just a contradiction. It's a betrayal. A betrayal of reason, of secularism, of every value you claim to defend. Because what you are enabling, knowingly or unknowingly, is a transnational theocratic agenda, one that wears the cloak of victimhood but holds the dagger of jihad. Take a long, hard look at what's happening in India. The Waqf Amendment Bill, which seeks to introduce transparency, curb corruption, and bring accountability to Waqf boards, has sparked a wave of protests, especially in Kerala and West Bengal, and in many other parts. But what could have been a civil discussion on legal reform has been turned into a full-blown communal agitation. But why? Because for Islamist factions, every civil issue is a potential ignition point, a spark to trigger unrest, radicalize youth, and push the narrative of Muslim persecution. Not for justice, not for reform, but to advance a deeper, more sinister goal, the creation of an Islamic order and Ummah state within India. This is the same ideology that links Maulana Maududi to Hassan al-Banna, Sayyid Qutb to Yahya Sinwar, and local radical leaders to global jihadists. And here's the disturbing visual proof. Why are the protesters in Kerala carrying images of Hassan al-Banna, Sayyid Qutb, and Yahya Sinwar? Let that sink in. They are not quoting Ambedkar, they are not invoking Nehru. They are holding placards of the ideological godfathers of violent Islamic extremism. Who is Hassan al-Banna? Founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, who viewed Islam as a complete political system that must dominate the world. Who is Sayyid Qutb? The man who gave modern jihad its ideological fire, who called for overthrowing secular governments and labeled pluralism as Jahiliyyah, pagan ignorance. Who is Yahya Sinwar, leader of Hamas, responsible for killing civilians using children as human shields, glorifying it as necessary sacrifice, and openly declaring jihad until Israel is wiped out. And let's not forget that Hamas' own charter, written in 1988, which directly quotes Hassan al-Banna. It says this: Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. Let that quote ring loud and clear. This is not a fringe interpretation. This is foundational. It is written into the DNA of jihadist movements, and yet these are the very men glorified on Indian streets today. This is what we saw in Kerala. So, what does it say about a protest movement that glorifies ideologues whose only contribution to the world has been bloodshed, totalitarianism, and death? And then they tell us this is about rights, about democracy, about secularism. No, this is not about rights. This is about hijacking democracy to destroy it from within. Let's not forget West Bengal, where the same protests have turned violent, where public property was destroyed, where mobs flooded the streets, not with constitutional grievances, but with Islamist war cries. This is not democratic dissent. This is ideological warfare. Now let's talk about the biggest betrayal of all, the silence of the political opposition. Where were the opposition MPs when the Waqf Amendment Bill was tabled in the parliament? Nowhere. They refused to debate. They dodged discussion. They fled responsibility. The opposition leader just remained silent. They left the legislative space empty so that the streets could be filled with radical slogans and Islamist incitement. This is not secularism. This is cowardice. And that cowardice is now enabling extremism to grow unchecked. And in the shadows lurks Mission 2047, a leaked document that clearly outlines an ambition to Islamize India by the 100th year of independence, 2047. not through bombs or bullets, but through demographics, institutional capture, social unrest, and psychological warfare. They will not shout jihad anymore. They will talk about minority rights. They will not talk about caliphate. They will speak of representation. But the core remains unchanged. The same supremacist, exclusionary ideology born in the minds of Qutb and Banna, now rebranded in the language of protest. Let me be blunt here. The Waqf protests, the glorification of Islamist figures in Kerala, the rejection of accountability, the violent eruptions in West Bengal, the silence of the opposition, all point to a well-orchestrated ideological push, not just in India, but globally. The same playbook has been used in Pakistan, where democracy was devoured by Islamism, in Gaza, where Hamas turned aid into rockets and freedom into death cults, Sweden, France, and the UK, where parallel Sharia societies are growing within the hearts of liberal democracies, and now in India, the final frontier where the secular fabric is being tested like never before. Yes, right-wing extremism is also rising. But ask yourself, why? Isn't the rise of Hindu radicalism a direct reaction to Islamist provocation, to the appeasement politics that enabled it, and to the silence of the so-called seculars who only find their voice when it's politically convenient? If we continue like this, India will not just face religious polarization, it will face ideological disintegration. To every Indian citizen, this is your wake-up call. Opposing Islamophobia does not mean endorsing Islamism. Protecting minorities does not mean giving cover to jihadists. And you cannot, absolutely cannot, support Hamas and pretend to oppose jihad. The world is watching. History will record this moment. So speak now, before it's too late. Jai Hind.